Hi Crafty Friends, this is Jen from Katahdin Krafts and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is Mystery Swap Challenge number 5 with my good friend Carrie Rhoades from Carrie Stamps. Now this swap is a little bit different. Our Halloween theme was the same with the camper and the barn, but this time we decided to switch back our camper and our barn and do a Christmas theme. So we also sent some products back and forth to each other. And what I did was send Carrie the barn already cut out of this pretty tartan paper from Whimsy Stamps. I can't get enough of this, anything actually plaid or checked. I love it all. And it has two pretty patterns, one on each side, and then I sent her, of course, all the little pieces that went with it. I also sent along a little goodie pack that she could use for the card or use on other cards. So that was the basis of this barn card today. And so what I did was I actually used Honeybee's new add-on for their house builder, which is Toy Store. And so I thought that I would make my barn into a Santa's workshop. So I started off by die cutting out the front of the toy store with a craft color and a red sparkle, which I had already had the barn cut out, that little eaves cut out in a red sparkle. So I thought that that would go well together with the plaid. And then I'm also using the layered tree that comes in that Toy Story die set as well. There are a gazillion dies in their build sets. It's really impressive actually. I also used several dies from their Gingerbread house add-on, like that larger wreath is from that set. And I do believe, yes, the bow is from that set as well that I put onto the wreaths. And now I'm going to start with my background after I got an idea of how I wanted this card to be basically set up. I am doing my inked background, and I do both of my cards today the same exact way, so I'm only going to show you one. The first thing I did was cut a mask out for my moon, and there's a die cut that comes in the set, in the Toy Story set, that is for a ball, but I just used that for my moon. And I just placed that in the position where I wanted it, so that would stay white when I'm doing my background sky. And I did want a night sky with this, so I went ahead with Dusty Concord, Chip Sapphire, and Black Soot for my Distress Oxide ink background. And I do tend to use Distress Oxide inks often because I like the way they blend. It's a little bit smoother. Once you get that first initial layer of ink down, then when you start putting other layers on, it goes much smoother and kind of glides on top of each other, and I like that. So it just takes a little bit of time. That's why I've sped this up, and I do apologize. I did speed a lot of this video up because it's quite a long video. I have lots and lots to show you in this. So now I'm just blending together the Dusty Concord and the Chip Sapphire, and I go back and forth until I get my desired effect. And again, I'm just trying to make it a night sky, but I don't want it to be too overly dark. So now I'm just taking a very, very light hand with the Black Soot. I'm really not putting any elbow grease, which I tend to do a lot, and I had to be very careful not to wrinkle my paper because I use so much elbow grease when I'm doing my ink backgrounds. So now I got that all set, and I'm going to spritz it with some water to have it activate. And then I'm going to blot that with a paper towel. And now I'm going to do splattering. I'm using my Distress Paint in Picket Fence, and I'm just putting that on an acrylic block and mixing it with some water and splattering it like crazy. I'm doing a lot of splatter. I wanted that to look like a winter night sky. So lots and lots of splatter on that. And now I'm going to also put some Lawn Fawn liquid Stardust? Yes, liquid Stardust. And I'm shaking that really well because it does settle on the bottom. So if you don't give that a good shake, you're going to not have as much shimmer. And I do like to add a little bit of water to this as well, just to make it a little bit easier to splatter on. And now I'm splattering the heck out of that too. And right now it looks like it's like, wow, Jen, what did you do? Why are you splattering that much? But once it all dries, it's not quite as bold as that. And now it's time to go ahead and distress some of my pieces. And I'm using a little finger dauber with Vintage Photo Distress ink this time, and not the oxide, the actual distress ink, just because that's a little bit darker. I'm just giving it a little bit of that inked edge, and that's going to give a little bit of shadow effect when I go ahead and pop those back into the die cuts. And I did ink up the fence, but I don't end up using it. But it actually, because of the texture that's in that, it inks up really nicely. I'm doing the tree trunks as well. And now I'm switching over. When I do the trees, I'm doing that in black soot because, again, I'm doing a nighttime card, so I didn't want those to be too bright green, so I wanted to tone it down a little bit and make it look like there were some night shadows. And just taking those finger daubers, which I haven't used in a while, and they're handy. I've been using chalks, but I grabbed out my finger daubers to change it up a bit. And I'm doing a little bit on that wreath as well. And now it's time just to assemble everything, glue it on down. I'm using all that pretty sparkly paper and my precision tip glue to get that all back in, and then I just pop that out, pop it in. And now the nice thing is that I have the reverse now. I can put the craft on the outside and then pop those sparkly pieces in on the middles, and I will have another card all ready to go. I'm going to add those wreaths. I thought that was a nice little touch. And add the bow. And unfortunately, that little tiny wreath die has gone MIA on me. It's in my craft room somewhere. And I don't know about you, I've often talked about it. I really should not have named myself Katahdin Krafts. I probably should have went with Messy Crafter, because I blow up a room when I craft. And now I just removed that mask, which is like the little magic, and I love to see that. And that's all nice and white under there. And now I stamped out some stamps, images from several different honeybee stamp sets. The little gnome is from Gnome Place Like Home, and I used the little female gnome there. And then I also stamped out some of the images from Toy Story. I keep on calling it Toy Story. I guess I have Disney on my mind, but Toy Store and the Gingerbread House add-on. And I don't end up actually using all of these images, but at the time I wasn't really sure. Actually, Carrie and I have talked about this before. She always says, you know, the card builds itself. It's very true. I can go in with an idea and my finished product is often way different than what I thought it was going to be, because the card builds itself as you go. And I do like that. That's actually a fun part for me with card making and card building and scene building. Anyway, so I thought that I wanted to use traditional colors because my plaid is traditional colors, but I had an awful lot of red going on already, so I thought I'd make my little gnome green, primarily green colored today. And so my whole thing is, oftentimes I talk about how I have stories in my mind when I make cards. So this little story is Santa Claus's workshop, but it's Christmas Eve and he is on his way to deliver the packages. And so this is his little elf or little gnome friend that is in front of the workshop, and you know, seeing him off to go in the sky, and she's kind of just standing there and making sure everything got loaded up. Yep, see? I come up with stories when I'm making my cards. Okay, as you can see, I am Copic Coloring. I did stamp this on Copic friendly paper. I like Neenah 110-pound cardstock. A lot of people like the 80 when they're doing their Copic Coloring. I prefer the 110 because I tend to put a lot of ink to blend. That's just my style. I layer the ink a lot and then just keep on going back and blending that out. So I do prefer the 110 because it does get into those fibers, and that gives me a little bit of more leeway when I'm blending with so much ink. So that's my personal preference. And I use Lawn Fawn's Jet Black ink on this, which is also Copic friendly and it does not smear. And I'm putting all the little caps on the side for you for the gnome. When I get to my second card, I do not show all of the coloring because, again, this is a super long video and I just couldn't fit it all in there, but you can always message me for any questions on those. I love to hear from everybody, and yeah, there's just so much to do that I didn't want to focus completely on my coloring today. And as you can see in the background, it also is getting colored, but I don't use those pieces, so I left that out as well. But we used the little gnome, the little female gnome, so I went ahead and kept her in so you could see some coloring today. And today is actually my birthday. And I have been trying to get this card done like all day. In between festivities, my husband made a nice dinner. They made me a chocolate fondue spread and got me a really pretty Disney necklace. So I've been wicked spoiled today. I got to craft and listen to an audiobook when everybody else did kind of the work around the house. Um, so it's been a really good day of crafting. I'm just, yeah, this is going to be hot off the press. Carrie's really, really understanding, and I appreciate that. And so as you can see, I had a little ladybug stop in and see me. So I'm trying to shoo that away without hurting the ladybug, but not wanting her to keep landing on my surface or in my hair. And I had stamped this out on some craft paper, and now I'm using a white gel pen and just R27 to fill in that to make it look like candy cane stripes. And isn't that stunning? I love that white gel pen on the craft paper. So now I'm filling in the Santa Claus, or the snowman, in my favorite red combination, which is R17, R24, and R27. So those are my three favorite reds to do together. Now it's time to place these layered trees together. And I'm just using some glue to add that on. And so you can remember that we already had inked that on the edges to tone it down a bit. I'm just layering those. And you can slide those anyway. You can make kind of like a shorter, squattier tree if you want, or you can make them tall and thin. That's the nice thing about the layers. You could change them in between. I recently made a candy cane tree, so you could do that if you wanted. So there's a lot of versatility there. And as you can see, a lot of times I use my handy dandy acrylic big block there to hold things down in place as I glue. And now I stamped out the Santa's Workshop, and then they have a die cut that goes with that, so you can cut that out perfectly and fit that in. And now for my snowy background, I used a few slimline dies from Lawn Fawn. They are the Stitched Hillside. And I cut various ones knowing that I was just going to piece those back in. And I only needed one side to go up high. The other side is going to be completely covered by the barn. So I just placed those in. And I didn't really worry about the stitch part. It didn't bother me if some of it had it because the trees are also going to be covering a lot of that as well. And at first I thought I was going to have the barn raised a little bit and that perhaps that little seam was going to be interfering, but it worked out fine. I actually put the barn down to the bottom so it didn't matter. And I just wanted a little distinction between each layer, so I used a little chipped sapphire and did the edges of those for a little bit of definition in between the snowy hills. That just makes them pop a little bit when they're layered, as you can see. So now you can see where the edge is. And I'm just gluing those down and I'm only putting about 3/4 of the glue on there and leaving the top edges so I can slide the trees and the sign underneath those. And this is a 5 7/8 square that I cut in order to make a 6x6 card, which is a pretty large card. Maybe save this one for something that's not going to be in the mail. I'm just snipping those off to make that a perfect edge. So now I have to add in Santa going across the moon, and that is from Lawn Fawn's Winter Sky set. And I used my Misty and Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink to stamp that onto my card. And now I'm going to grab out some diamond stickles and add those to each of the tree layers on the edge to make it look like some glittery snow. And now I'm going to set that out to dry overnight. Stickles does take a little bit of time to dry, and I put it on relatively thick. And I really like the way it looks once it is dry. And I'm adding a little bit to that sign too, just for a little bit more shimmer. So now we are into the next day, and everything is nice and dry and cut out and ready to be assembled. So I'm going to use my liquid glue, and look at that pretty pattern on the back. I could have easily have used that side for the barn as well. I'm just going to add the barn right to the bottom, and I am overlapping because I'm planning on trimming that off and adding my weight there to help hold it down, and putting my tree on, which I had to lift that up just a little bit because I forgot that I was going to have to slide that tree under there. But that was okay, and that's the good thing about the liquid glue is because I caught that in time. And then I'm sliding that under one of the layers. Again, I left those a little bit opened and didn't glue all the way to the edge there in order to be able to do that. And I'm going to pop up our gnome with some foam dots and slide in that sign, the little North Pole sign, and then add the glue onto that. So lots of layers in this card, lots of bulk, lots of layers. And I did do these presents from the Gingerbread add-on stamp set and colored those with Copic markers, the same color scheme that I used for the snowman and the gnome. I used very simple coloring in this, again, because that wasn't my focus. I wanted the die cuts to be my focus. And I'm adding a little bit of stars. Again, almost everything that I used was from the 2 honeybee stamp sets, the toy store and the Gingerbread add-on. There's a lot to choose from in those. And I wasn't sure, like I said, how I was going to build this, but I really like the way that snowman fit in right in front of that sign. And I added a little bit of a little lantern to her to hold because, again, it's nighttime and she's seeing Santa off, so she had to have a little bit of light. And then I was thinking that this would have been a perfect card to light up, actually, with some easy lights. I could have done her lantern and the 2 stars in the trees. That would have been really pretty too. And now I'm using a few of Honeybee's gems. In this one, actually, I kept this in so you could see that that one lost its stick when I took it off, but I could just add a little dot of glue and then pop that back on there. And these gems really added a lot to my cards today. I like this. I put a lot on there and I love the look that it gave. And just added those onto all of the wreaths, and to me that made it look like the berries. And then I wanted to decorate my Christmas trees. And just lots of shimmer and sparkle and shine. If you follow me, you'll know that those are my favorite things. I love everything shiny. And these cards definitely have a lot of shimmer and shine on them today. Now I'm just adding a few highlights with my white gel pen. And I guess I needed a couple more gems. And then I'm adding Winkostella so I can get some more shimmer and shine to everything that was going to be lit up or could be lit up and glow. And then I decided, well, you know what? Those bows need a little bit of shine on them too. And of course, the paper that I used on the bottom for the snow is Lawn Fawn Sparkle cardstock. So that has a lot of shimmer. And now for my sentiments today, I grabbed out my Taylor Expression Simple Strips. I used the Simple Strips holiday or the Christmas stamps, and then I used both of the die cuts that go with those, the Simple Strip die cut and then also the backers. And I just did a bunch of those, and I'm just showing you all the different sentiments that you get with one poof, actually. You just stamp them all down, you cut them all out at the same time, and then you have a bunch of them to choose from. And I'm just going to cut off that side of the barn and even out my card again. And I decided to leave that overhang on the other side of the trees for right now. If I were to put that in an envelope, I'm going to worry about it then, but right now I did not want to cut that off. I like the aesthetics of it hanging off the edge. And now I'm using a little basil shimmery cardstock for my card base, and I cut that 6 by 12 and then scored it at the 6-inch mark. And that is a perfect 6 by 6 card. And you can see that that is hanging over quite a bit, but I just couldn't bring myself to cut it. So you know what? I decided not to. And then I thought that top corner needed a little bit of something in there. So I went ahead and cut out a few more tree tops and stuck those behind the barn. And I did ink those up and make them match. And then I chose my sentiment and I adhered it to a red background a glittery gold background. And there you have it. That is card number 1, the barn from Honeybee Stamps. And now to go into card number 2. So now Carrie was sending me back my camper, and she cut out some fun goodies for me and certain papers and sent some party burst dots from Stamper's Journey. And this is a beautiful card made by Carrie. I have a little collection. I love them. I display them by the season. And the camper die, and then yay, all my little goodies from Carrie. I love making Christmas cards, so all of these in Christmas colors was so much fun to receive. And I've had this idea of what I was going to do for this card for quite some time. I am actually at the end, you get a little bonus into my life. You'll get to see what our family Christmas card is this year. We got together with my sister's family and my parents and had a photo shoot of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. My husband was Cousin Eddie, and so I was his wife, Catherine. And it was a lot of fun, and I am adding that to the end of the video so you can see what we did. But look at all these fun things that Carrie sent me. Yay, I was so excited. I was actually doing a little happy dance, which you couldn't see off camera, but I loved like the lights and all of that fun stuff. So now I wanted it to kind of look like Cousin Eddie's camper, so I did choose the pattern paper that she sent from Fawn in the really rainbow scallops. I picked that in the green scallop, and then she also sent some the lights here. These are from the Christmas Critter Huggers add-on from Fawn as well. And what I'm doing is just coloring them individually in different colors to make them look like bright Christmas lights. And then I'm just going to add that little black strip that goes on for the cord on top. That fine precision glue comes in handy yet again. Just popping that right back on. It actually works out really well. And I did go ahead and adhere the camper together already, just because the sake of timing. This video I realized was really taking a long time. Sorry everybody, but I had so much fun to show you. And now I'm assembling all the little presents, candy canes from that same set. And at this point you can see my hands are gotten quite inky. It's been a fun day of crafting for sure. Putting all those cute little die cuts. Those are so sweet. I love them. And you can see the camper came together really well. She sent me some nice silver, mirror silvered cardstock that I put on the edges of the door and the window and in the hubcap, and then the little trailer hitch. So that's all working out perfectly. I also distressed that as well with the vintage photo because I wanted it to look a little bit older. And there are my Cousin Eddie and my Clark. And I did the Christmas trees the same exact way that I did in my first card, as well as the background. So all of that is the very same. So I've already showed you all of that. I used the stickles and everything right on those trees, and I layered them the same. And now I'm just assembling them into this card. I did several that I didn't need because, again, I was letting the card build itself. Then I'm going to put those right across the top, the lights across the top of the camper. We got to get that a little festive for Cousin Eddie and Catherine. Little wreath on their door. And then you're probably wondering what that orange piece is on the side. Well, I will show you very soon. And now I cut out the same sparkly cardstock from the Stitch Hillside again, and I'm layering that on the bottom, just sliding that right under and getting nice layers. There's going to be a little bit more showing on this card, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any seams this time. And that acrylic block comes in super handy when you're doing these thick layered projects. It's like a third hand. And then this precision glue again for these delicate pieces, which look at I love all the details in these die cut sets. And now just speedy assembly. Adding my glue and adhering that all down. And when coloring my Clark and Eddie, I did go on Google and just look at the color schemes to try to get those as close as I could. And the reason why my sister came up with this plan to have the photo shoot is when we do holidays together, we actually sit down and do the national anthem like they do in that movie. And my mom always does the let's play ball thing. Yeah, we have ourselves video. It makes the kids really super fun. You know, they love it. So that's kind of been one of our family traditions is doing that. So yeah, she came up with that idea of doing that family photo together. So that orange slider piece is from Lawn Fawn's Slimline Sliders, and it is Eddie's hose because he has to empty the septic, right? So I wanted him to hold that hose, so I used my pen knife and just made a little slit near his arm so he could hold that in place. And then I decided that he needed to have something that he was emptying that into. So I used another rim that came with the set that Carrie sent me and just adhered that to the bottom where the hose was going to end up. And I'm using my glue as a little bit of a weight right now. And then I wanted to pop up Eddie and Clark. So I put some foam dots behind them. And then I'm adding them to the card. And then I'm going to slip in that hose and popped out that a little bit in the back as well because it needed some stability. So it's partially up but then going down, which I like that look. And I did get a little glue, but that's okay. I just wiped it with my fingers. And then I needed something to cover that back end a little bit of the hose, so I just went ahead and put some presents down. And I added some other in between them, other presents just for some interest. And I was trying to add a couple more items on there, but then I decided, I think that it was that had enough going on that card. So I chose my sentiment from the Taylor Expressions set again, from Our House to Yours. And there you have it. I finished card number 2. Oh, I'm gonna add a little bit of Winkastella for a little bit more shine to those lights and to the little jingle bells on Clark's hat. And a couple more. So this is from the Fun Stamper's Journey that Carrie sent. And these are called Party Burst Dots. And that was a perfect little handle, and it matches perfectly with that paper for the door. And then the star. And then she sent some Honeybee's Red Hots from Honeybee Stamps. So I thought that they would be great Christmas tree ornaments. So I went and put those on with a little dot of glue for each one. And then I also added some more of those honeybee gems to the tree just for more interest again. And I just really like those gems. Had to slip on a bow to that wreath to kind of cover the little bit of the red of the door that was showing. And I just thought that would be a nice little addition. And some more of those gems on the wreath and then on the tree. Are we the only family that actually does a lot of quotes from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation? We do it a lot. It is definitely one of our family favorite movies. We watch it every year. And now I'm just cutting that off the little bit of the septic or the sewer drainage. Well, there you go. Card number 2 with the camper. This has been so much fun again with Carrie. I really love this. And here is my crazy family and our Christmas photo. And yes, this did go out on our Christmas cards this year. And thank you so much for stopping in with Carrie and I today. I really appreciate you spending some time with me on my birthday. And thank you so much to Carrie for our mystery swap again. This is my very favorite project to do always. Thanks everybody. If you haven't subscribed and you enjoyed today, please do so. Drop me a comment, give me a like. I appreciate all of it. Thank you so much and happy crafting.